Okay, serious time, serious conversation. I believe it's time that we as a people seriously reconsider the role billionaires, that's with a B, people whose net worth is over $1,000 million, billionaires play in our economy and our society. In fact, I say it's time we outlaw billionaires by placing a 100% tax on any wealth over $999 million. Trust me, we'd all be better off in a nation free of billionaires. I mean, look around. The whole planet is in crisis. Europe's on the brink of collapse. The United States economy is sputtering out. Freak climate change-induced weather is becoming more and more common. Our streets are becoming the breeding grounds for social instability. And all the while, there's this very small cadre of very, very wealthy individuals, billionaires, who are sucking up more and more of the wealth that used to belong to working people. Just consider these numbers. Post-World War II, all income levels in America grew together. And the lowest income level, the 20% poorest Americans, their income actually grew at a faster rate than the 20% at the top, the 20% wealthiest Americans. The poor were doing better. During that time, this is during the Eisenhower administration, the Kennedy administration, the Johnson administration, the Nixon administration. During this time, billionaires were few and far between in America because wealth was more evenly distributed. But ever since Ronald Reagan, and since a new mentality was instilled in our culture that greed is good and that the super rich shouldn't be questioned or asked to sacrifice anymore for their nation, then income for the top has increased, has exploded, while actually falling for the bottom. Seriously, since 1980, the year that Reagan won the election, the top 1% has sucked up 80% of all the new wealth created. In 2010, the richest 1% of Americans received 93% of all the new income earned that year. So that today there's over 400 billionaires in America. In fact, the richest 400 Americans, all of whom are billionaires, those 400 individuals collectively own more wealth than the bottom 150 million Americans combined. In fact, the richest 6 members of the Sam Walton family, heirs to the Walmart fortune, again, all billionaires, own more wealth than the bottom 30% of Americans combined. According to a recent study from the Federal Reserve, median net worth for middle-class families dropped by nearly 40% from 2007 to 2010. That's the equivalent of wiping out 18 years of savings for the average middle-class family. And where did that money go? It went to the richest 400 Americans, all billionaires who collectively own $1.3 trillion worth of wealth. The issue here is not punishing the wealthy. If you have $999 million, you're still doing just fine, thank you very much. The issue is acknowledging that billionaires have sucked up so much wealth from our economy that the rest of us are drowning. What's worse is the rest of us are working harder than ever. Productivity has steadily increased post-World War II, and it used to be that income gains increased right alongside it. But around the time of Reagan, productivity and wages began to diverge. Productivity increased, and the wage line flattened right out. Because all the extra profits made by increased productivity was not given back to workers, but because of the Reagan tax cuts was instead pocketed by CEOs and executives. In other words, we're all working harder, but unfortunately, and by no choice of our own, have been forced to give up the fruits of our labor to the elites, to the billionaires whose wealth has quite literally exploded and continues to increase year after year. Not literally, metaphorically exploded. And what have we working people been given out of this deal with the billionaires? What have we gotten out of the fact that our society has given birth since Reagan to 400 and some odd billionaires? We've been given political corruption. As billionaires like Shelley Adelson and the Koch brothers can now buy politicians and buy legislation to benefit their own selfish interests, like tax cuts for wealthy people, deregulation for polluting oil corporations, and so-called free trade for job outsourcers. We've been given gigantic transnational corporations steered by billionaires that can crush the competition of small businesses and kill the American entrepreneurial spirit. And that's exactly what's happening. According to a new study released today by the New America Foundation, the number of entrepreneurs per capita in America has dropped 55% since 1977. And since 1991, the number of Americans who are self-employed has dropped by more than 20%. We used to be able to start our own businesses. And the Americans who used to be able to start their own businesses are now being forced to join the ranks of the working poor, crowding out the market. Pushed out of the market by the billionaires' corporate domination. We've been given financial instability as these billionaires, having more money than they can spend in a dozen lifetimes, go on to Wall Street to gamble with that money. As author Larry Beinhart has discovered, whenever tax rates drop below 50% and the super rich have a lot of hot money to play with, there are always economic crashes. It happened in the 1920s. It happened in the 1980s with the S&L crisis. It happened just a few years ago with the housing bubble bursting. And not only that, the billionaires have even denied us and themselves happiness. 2010 study by the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences found, and I'm quoting from the National Academy of Sciences, emotional well-being rises with income, but there is no further progress beyond an annual income of $75,000. Low income exacerbates the emotional pain associated with such misfortunes as divorce, ill health, and being alone. We conclude that high income buys life satisfaction, but not happiness. In other words, once your basic essentials are met, which you can pretty much do with $75,000 a year in income for a family, any extra money does not make you happier. And above all else, our subservience to the billionaires has given us a perverse form of capitalism, corporate capitalism, which subjugates all the needs of our society. Clean air, food, water, security, healthcare, education, retirement, energy, all of it has been given over to the demands of quarterly profits, to the demands of the billionaires who sit in corporate boardrooms and figure out what extra little bit of profit they can squeeze out of their workers, out of their fracking wells, out of the Gulf of Mexico, out of bombs being dropped on Afghanistan, out of healthcare premiums, out of pensions, out of retirements. As Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist Chris Hedges routinely points out, corporate capitalism, if left unchecked, is going to kill us. And the way to put a check on it today is to cut off the spigot funneling what was once middle-class wealth to the billionaires. We can't say we weren't warned about the dangers that might come with the rise of the billionaires. Our most influential founding father, Thomas Jefferson, wrote exhaustively about the dangers of an aristocracy, or what the billionaires would have been called back in his day. He wrote to George Washington in 1786, "Though the day may be at some distance, beyond the reach of our lives perhaps, yet it will certainly come when a single fiber left of this institution will produce an hereditary aristocracy which will change the form of government from the best to the worst in the world. I shall think little also of our government's longevity unless this germ of destruction be taken out." And as Jefferson wrote to John Adams in 1813, rehashing a debate the two had had over the Senate, which at that time was handpicked by wealthy state legislators, "The artificial aristocracy is a mischievous ingredient in government, and provision should be made to prevent its ascendancy. I think that to give them power in order to prevent them from doing mischief is arming them for it, and instead increasing instead of remedying the evil." We were warned by President Grover Cleveland, the only Democrat elected during the robber baron era, who in his 1888 State of the Union address said, "As we view the achievements of aggregated capital, we discover the existence of trusts, combinations, and monopolies, while the citizen is struggling far in the rear or is trampled to death beneath an iron heel. Corporations, which should be the carefully restrained creatures of the law and the servants of the people, are fast becoming the people's masters." End of quote.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Okay, here's my suggestion, really simple. Not an income tax, a wealth tax. If somebody is sitting on more than $999 million, 100% of everything above that is taxed. No more billionaires. Who could possibly need a billion? Isn't $999 million enough? I mean, we were warned about the dangers of this. As we came out of going into the last break, I was reading to you from Thomas Jefferson and from Grover Cleveland. Franklin Roosevelt, in the aftermath of the Great Depression in 1936, he called out the economic royalists, the people who today would be called billionaires. He said a small group had concentrated into their own hands and almost complete control of other people's money, other people's property, other people's labor, other people's lives. For too many of us, life was no longer free. Liberty was no longer real. Men could no longer follow the pursuit of happiness. These economic royalists complain that we seek to overthrow the institutions of America, Franklin Roosevelt said. What they really complain of is that we seek to take away their power. Are you finding this clip, Shane? Our allegiance to American institutions requires the overthrow of this kind of power. Here's Franklin Roosevelt saying that so much better than I just did.
These economic royalists complain that we seek to overthrow the institutions of America. What they really complain of is that we seek to take away their power, and our allegiance to American institutions requires the overthrow of this kind of power.
That was in July of 1936, and all across the United States, people sat at their radios and listened to Roosevelt issue that warning and got behind him when Roosevelt put in place a 94% top income tax rate on billionaires, or what would be billionaires in today's dollars. Republican President Dwight Eisenhower kept that tax rate at 91% during the 8 years of his administration. Richard Nixon embraced a 70% tax rate on billionaires. Today it's 35%. We know where that's gotten us. Our nation does not thrive on the goodwill of billionaires. We thrive on the hard work of average Americans who wake up every day, go to work, care for their families, raise kids to believe that America is a we society, a place where we all work together, not a place where we wait for scraps to fall off the billionaires' dining room tables. Billionaires are not job creators. They are not smarter than the rest of us, and they are not harder workers than the rest of us. They are hoarders, plain and simple. If they had to convert their wealth into actual things, they wouldn't even be able to move around in their lavish mansions. Even if they converted it to gold, they couldn't move around. We need to bring back common sense taxes on wealth, including an absolute tax above $1 billion that once and for all prevents the ascendancy of predatory billionaires in America. We don't need a landed gentry in this country. In fact, our country was founded on a rebellion against a landed gentry. It's time for us all to join the No Billionaires campaign. Do you get this? Just say no to billionaires. I mean, anybody who can sit around and say, yeah, I'll put $400 million into electing the people that I want to serve my interests. You're telling me that's good for our nation? That's somehow good for our republic? That two brothers worth $50 billion can completely change the national dialogue so that average working people suddenly start thinking that they should be voting for a multimillionaire, for a quarter billionaire like Mitt Romney, or a third billionaire? He's liquid $250 million, but he put $100 billion in a trust for his kids. And I'm still trying to figure out, $100 million, a tenth of a billion. And I'm still trying to figure out, how do you end up with all this money in an IRA? How much is in his IRA, Shana? $100 million. How do you do that? I get it. I get it. I get emails from people saying, well, you do this, then you do that, then you do this, then you do... It's just $100 million in a 401k, in a retirement account? That's incredible. And these billionaires would have us believe that the reason why they're billionaires isn't because, they're members of the Lucky Sperm Club, the five heirs to the Walton fortune, who collectively, those five people, own more wealth than the bottom 30% of all Americans. No, they would tell you it's because we're smarter. We worked harder. Bill Gates had a better idea. Well, Bill Gates was a very good businessman. And, I don't begrudge him $999 million. That's more than he could spend in a lifetime. But tens of billions? There's something fundamentally wrong with this equation. Now, Bill and Melinda, the Gates Foundation, they're doing some cool stuff with their money. Warren Buffett just gave them $1.8 billion, I believe it was. But do we really, is this a country founded on the idea of an aristocracy? Because we have an aristocracy now. Billionaires don't fly through public airports. They get their own private jets. They don't travel on public roads. They go from place to place in their helicopters or their motorcades. They don't live among the rest of us. They don't shop among the rest of us. It's literally a separate world. We have an aristocracy in this country. And frankly, taxing all wealth above $1 billion isn't going to do away with that, because $999 million still makes you a pretty damn rich aristocrat. But at least then a few of these billionaires would say, well, okay, $400 million to elect Mitt Romney, I don't think I'm going to do that. That's half my money.